Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. If you are African American, more than likely you or someone in your family is incarcerated. One in 3 black men can expect to spend some time in prison during his lifetime. Compounding the problem is that African American men receive sentences that are 20 to 50 times longer than white men for the same crime. And for the women, there is no difference. Black women are more likely to be jailed than any other ethnic group. So what happens to the family when a loved one is incarcerated? What about the children? And when that person gets out, then what? Locked up and let out. Incarceration and the black family. Another View is next, so stay tuned.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Author Michelle Alexander calls it the new Jim Crow, mass incarceration of African Americans, particularly black men. The statistic is astounding. 1 in every 3 black men in this country can expect to spend some time in the penal system. Incarceration has a devastating effect on the black family, particularly the children, who are more likely to grow up poor and in a single-parent household. And after the inmate has paid his time, reentry is no picnic. It's an uphill battle to find employment, housing, and a crime-free way of life. But there are people who care, and we have 2 of them with us today on Another View. Ms. Quniana Futrell is an author, a trainer, educator, and CEO of Building Resilience in Communities, or BRC, which serves children and families impacted by incarceration. May I call you Q?
Please do.
Q, welcome to the show.
Thank
Appreciate you being here. And Dr. Melvin Cotton, Jr., Senior Pastor of New Genesis Baptist Church. Dr. Cotton's dissertation is called Preaching Through Black Pain, Prescriptive Proclamation in Relation to Mass Incarceration, which argues that the awareness of mass incarceration is the first action to the healing of this particular black pain. Dr. Cotton, welcome. And congratulations.
Thanks again.
For getting your doctorate. You call it black pain.
Yes.
Why? What is that?
Every morning that someone black in America wakes up, they wake up in pain. I talk about preaching to it, but we can't address all black pain. So the black pain that I have a passion to focus on is mass incarceration. And I say this because there's nobody black in America that doesn't know somebody that is incarcerated or has been.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so, and you know that from a very personal level, don't you?
Yes.
Can you tell us about it?
Oh, I don't mind at all. I feel that I've overcome this and, like you said, locked up but let out.
and transformed.
Yes, transformed. When in my younger days, I had caught a possession with intent to distribute drug charge. And it caused me to do 47 months in federal prison. So after that, here I am.
And you had to do the full stretch because of the drug laws?
Yes,
is that right?
You do 85% now. Yeah.
85%.
85%
of the time. So what was it like inside for you?
It could get lonely if your mind is not focused on something. You can lose your mind. And I had my mind on my children. 3 innocent children that were out here fending without a father. So that was my focus on getting back into society. And
when you thought about your children while you were in, I mean, did you think about them before you did the actions that got you there?
Yes, I did. I didn't think about the negative part that could happen.
It was all about the money.
Anyone would tell you there was nothing I did not buy my children. And that was just a young mind that was ignorant to life because I had a great job with a local communications company. I've always had a good job, but I just wanted more and to do more and just got caught up doing the wrong thing. I can't blame anyone but me.
What brings you to work with incarcerated families? What's your story?
So for me, I have not been behind bars personally, but I grew up having 2 parents who were. And so for me growing up in, the slum of streets in Newark, New Jersey, I had to grow up with parents who not only were incarcerated for most of my life, a mother who still today struggles and has time over her head, and she's almost 60 years old. But them, into the crime life, selling drugs, on drugs. So the fast life was something that I just grew up with. So this particular population is something very, very personal to me because of that.
Can you describe Q, a typical day for you when were both parents locked up at the same time?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, and I would be with grandma.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what was life like for you? What were some of the thoughts? Do you remember back then?
Oh my gosh. So for me, some of the questions I had was, is it my fault? Why do they keep doing this? Do they love being there more than they love being here with me? Am I not good enough that they can't stop the activities that they're doing that keeps causing them to be in jail and be in prison? What is it about these drugs that they love so much more than they love me? Those are all the questions that I had. So talking about, self-esteem, it was shot, didn't have it. Thinking about, my own identity and my self-worth, all of that was nowhere to be found growing up because of those issues.
How old were you when they first went in?
Oh, gosh, as far back as I can remember. I mean, kindergarten. And I remember my mom having an abusive boyfriend and then both of them being taken away. So, I mean, as far back as I can remember, even as young as 6 and 7 being behind a police car because of her and her criminal state. So, yeah, as far back as I can remember, it's always been my norm, per se. Yeah.
So the family, your extended family, how did they help make things normal for you? Because what I'm trying to get to from both of you is what does happen to the Black families who have someone who is incarcerated, and everybody else has to step in to take over, right?
So here's the tricky part, because in the community, especially one where I grew up in, it's normal. So it's nothing to talk about. It's normal, which is the problem, because nobody talks about it. Mom gets arrested, and okay, you watch it happen. But now it's all right. Well, let's go in, have dinner. Let's go to bed. Let's go on with life, because this is normal. This is nothing to have a conversation about. Why? We don't need to ask you how you feel about this, because it's normal. This is just what happens in our community.
I can't even respond. I am dumbfounded, really.
Yeah.
So that was what's so grandma didn't pull you over and
Never.
said, "Baby, this is what happened."
Never.
None of that.
And that's why I advocate so much for it, because there's so many children, and you think about African-American children, it's 1 in 9 in the U.S. who deal with this, but not many people are talking to them. Or if they do, it's, they're in the hospital, they're in the military, but not jail. They never say they're in jail, they're in prison. And if they do, it's because, again, it's the norm. So there's nothing else to say. They're just in there because they don't think that it's a conversation that needs to be had, because they don't understand the long-term effects that this will actually have on the child.
So, Melvin, who took care of your children while you were in? And what was that? Was this the same conversation, or was there no conversation?
No, I stayed in contact. Their mothers and my family and some friends. That's who had taken care of them while I was away.
And did your family sit down with them to explain what was going on, or was that left up to you?
It was left up to me later. And they were very young, and I think they figured it out. And my oldest daughter, she still says, I remember the hard times we had. And my oldest son, I missed you.
Wow.
So it's very painful. But they were told that I was away in school. I think that's the worst thing to do.
Really?
Let them know it's wrong. As Q said, it's a norm. I mean, being the youngest of 14 and being one of the 8 boys, 4 of us have done sentences. And the other, and 2 of the other, let me say it this way, 7 of the 8 have seen a cell, but 4 of us have done lengthy sentences. So it's a norm. I mean, speaking of nephews, one that's incarcerated now, so it's a norm. I can agree. Being from Portsmouth is definitely a norm in Portsmouth.
So what do we... this whole idea of it being a norm, I'm telling you, it's just, I don't even know where to go with that, because I just never really thought of it from that perspective.
Yeah.
But I guess that is true. I mean, because if 1 in 3 black men at some point are going to have some kind of relationship with the penal system,
Yeah.
then that makes sense. So let me unpack it this way. Let me go inside the prison first and come back out to the family. So as you're sitting, what's a normal day like, first of all? Are you studying? Are you just hanging out? I mean, what are you doing when you're in?
Me?
Or in general?
No, I'm gonna speak. I'm gonna speak from
your personal experience.
My personal experience. I read the Bible a lot. It's a lot going on. Just madness sometimes. Someone can be ready to fight over a fish sandwich. It's really just some ridiculous things that take place. But everyone has a job, and you're getting paid pennies. And it's the same routine every day, except for Saturdays and Sundays for some.
You know, I was doing some research on this topic, and one of the things that I read was someone was saying that in prison, that's where black men go to do the things that you should be doing in society. So in other words, like you said, you get an education, you work, you you get three hots and a cot, as they used to call it. But our community can't survive that way.
Let me go into this for a second. There are some of us, such as myself. I always had a job. I did graduate high school. I did go to college. I stopped going every time that I decided to go to school. But inside of prison, I did help with people that were working on their GEDs. So there are some of us that stand out, saying, you know what, I shouldn't be here. Neither should these guys, because we help each other in here. We should help each other in the normal society. So if we look at it, I believe that it is actually what Michelle Alexander says, the new Jim Crow. This is slavery, modern day slavery. Even how we look at the education system. The other day I went to my son's field day. He'll be in 3rd grade next year, my youngest son. And that is where they check test scores to see how many prisons they're going to build.
Absolutely. And
there's another book, DeGruy Leary. It's called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. We all suffer from that. Thinking about if you're riding your car and the police lights come on, you've done nothing wrong, but it's a sense of nervousness.
Absolutely. But people would say to you then, Dr. Cotton, I mean, but seriously, you went to high school. You had an intact family? Yes, no? No.
Mom and dad split up.
Mom and dad split up.
That caused money problems.
Okay. But you got your education. You had a good job. You got your post-degree, post-high school education. So what about the streets pulled you in that direction instead of staying out?
The want for money, and I'll have to say it was a sense of greed, and also another norm. I have to say, out of 8 boys, and this is not down in my brothers, I look up to them, but there's only 2 of us that have a high school diploma. So they poured a lot into me to do better because of what they suffered. But I decided to grab a hold of the negative versus the positive that they wanted to see from me.
Gotcha. So, Q, when you were growing up, were there other kids in your class that were having the same experience since it was the norm?
Oh, yeah.
Where did you guys get together to talk about, when my mom's getting out next week? Or
it really wasn't a conversation. It really wasn't. I don't remember at all ever having a real heartfelt or sentimental type of conversation when it came to talking about either one of my parents being away. I cannot recall that at all being a child. Not once. Not once.
So when they would get out, what would happen? What would be the relationship that you'd have with them then?
It would be just like picking up from where it left off, excited to see them. One of the things that I teach, because I go into a jail now every week and I teach parents how they can parent right from behind the bars where they are. And so I always tell them it really doesn't matter where you are. You can still be a great parent right from behind this cell. And no matter what you've done to your children, they still love you unconditionally. They still want a relationship with you. It's just the things you do that they don't like. And so even as many times as they said, I won't go back again, this is going to be the last time, And it still happened again. As frustrated as I was, as angry as I was, I still embraced them with open arms. Yeah.
And because even though they kept disappointing you,
Every
still-
time. I still loved them. I still want the best. Even today, I still want the best for my mom. I want her to stop using. I want her to stop stealing. I want her to know you got to pay for stuff when you go in these stores. I want her to know that.
Did you go visit them when you went?
Yes.
When they were there?
I did.
What was that like?
I would say initially it was scary because you're going into this big place that if you ever watch TV prior to going, you're really terrified. But it's nothing like that. It's not as scary as the TV really shows it to be. But you do go in, you do have to go through, the detectors. They do have to pat you down. But the people that I've always experienced were very friendly. I remember one time having to go back and sit in a car for hours because I had a tank top on, and you can't show skin at all. I don't care how small you are. So the trip, we had to drive so far. Mom was like, okay, well, you're just going to sit in the car then. And we'll be back. We'll be back in a few. So I had to wait.
But that brings up a good point because part of the breaking of the family also is the distance that people have to travel.
It's a long
way. And a lot of people are unable to make that travel. And I understand also with the phones, for example, that they charge exorbitant fees for people to be able to call their families. So there are barriers that are placed from keeping the unit intact, as you said, from behind bars.
Absolutely. It definitely is. It's the distance is unreal. Even when you go there and they have vending machines where you all can share a snack or a candy bar, you can only take a clear plastic bag with coins. Yeah, so if you don't have change, you can forget about it because you're not taking dollars in there. You have to wear specific clothes. Your name has to be on the list exactly how it's on your ID or, whatever you're bringing to prove that it's you. There are certain criteria that they don't care if you drove 3 hours to get here. They don't care if you took a bus and a plane and a boat. When you get to that door and you don't have everything that you need to get access to go beyond that wall, you can forget it.
So what do you guys think about taking children to visit their parents while they're in prison? I mean, I've heard both sides that some people say, yes, because you want the child and the father to have a relationship or the mother to have a relationship. Other people say, no, they don't want them to be in that environment. What do you think, Melvin, first? Let's start with you.
At the time, the first time I saw my children was when I first had gotten out of the jail and was transferred to a prison. My father brought my oldest son and my oldest daughter, and my daughter said, I want to stay here with my daddy. And my son said, me too. That was a horrific experience. So I think it depends on the child's maturity level. Because 2 and 3 at the time, they didn't understand I can't stay here with him.
Right.
So I think it's a maturity level thing. And if I could change anything, I wouldn't have allowed their mothers to tell them I was at school.
Yeah.
Because they need to know that's wrong and how I feel.
Did you have conversations with their mothers about how you were going to what you were going to tell the children?
Yes, but I essentially left it up to them because they're the ones that had to deal with whatever response they had to the situation. I was very respectful of that. But when I came home, I was very open about it and being more open about it now because I was silenced for years, but I feel more comfortable now because I feel I've overcome it. And this awareness has to be raised because they're working on the next set of prisoners.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the scary part.
Very much.
So you left it up to the mothers. They told your kids that you were in school.
Yes.
So they were 3 and 4. So they were working. Yeah. So, but your kids were very young.
Yes.
At that point. How old were you, Q, when you first went to visit your parents? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, young, 4 or 5.
So my question is, I mean, do you think it's different if your kids are older? Or should you start, if it's an infant all the way up? I mean, what do you?
I think for me, the only thing that I base it on is the crime that the parent committed. So, for example, if the parent committed a crime against the child, a sexual crime against the child, and or something physical and or sexual against the other parent, the other custodial parent in front of the child, then yeah, let's not do that. But any case outside of that, I believe every child should go see their parent, because that helps keep that open line of communication, that helps them get that sense that that parent is still there with them, even though they're not living with them. Yeah.
What about you, Melvin? What do you think?
I didn't take into mind the nature of some crimes, but I do believe that has to be also a factor involved when you're allowing a child.
What does it do for the person who is incarcerated to get that visit?
Oh wow!
Man.
In my dissertation, I did a sermon series called "Don't Forget About Me."
Yeah.
As time goes on, phone numbers change, letters and cards stop coming, money stops coming. It's people get so caught up in life. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people just, or whatever, nothing he can do for me or she can do for me. I must say she as
So
well,
different, right?
because
right,
women
more
are being incarcerated.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it just decreases. And if someone, I know a lot of guys that were in relationships. Me, I chose not to be. Be in relationships. She meets somebody else, and for women, he meets somebody else. You cannot be a man or a woman or a husband or wife to someone that's in the free world. It's hard. There are some relationships I know that have lasted through that, but you cannot be that husband, just like you can't be that father to that child. The communication is very important.
So what about women? Because, you see these shows all the time, and I know part of that's reality TV. I get that. But I'm talking about real life in terms of women in particular who seem to either they develop relationships with guys who are in prison. And they either marry them while they're in prison, or they say they're going to be there, so forth. I mean, is that real, or is that just reacting to that situation?
Okay. Some people may not like this, but I think that some women are attracted to the whole bad boy thing. I remember I was approached by someone, and she was a dentist, and she knew some of my story. And just in conversation with her, I didn't plan on going out with anything. We were in a mutual place. She wants a bad boy. I said, you want to be sending somebody canteen money or something? I don't know what the world is on your mind.
Bless her heart.
Because you have people that may have Jeffrey Dahmer type people. They have fan mail. They get mail because some reason someone is attracted to what they did, or attracted to the bad. I'm bringing it back to our neighborhood. They're attracted to the bad boy. When he comes home,
what
who
is
they
that
say
about?
he is. I don't know. You would have to ask some women that have that have that thing.
Q, what is that about? I mean, you go into prison all the time. You talk
know.
to these guys and to these women.
Well,
what do they say?
One of the things that I've identified, honestly, is that for a lot of them, they want what their father was or wasn't. So I have a young lady who's in there now who has, bad father, memories growing up. The relationship wasn't that great. He was abusive. He was an alcoholic. He was, so many horrific things. And guess who she dated? Dad.
Same guy.
And so in my classes, I helped them identify some of your childhood stuff and how that impacts your now adulthood. Because really, you just got taller. You still the same little broken child who just got taller and bigger boobs, right? And so she just never identified that. She said, in all my years of counseling and anybody I've ever talked to, I never would have put that together to think I was dating my dad this whole time. I said, you got to look at that. And for a lot of them, that's what they're doing. They're dating the image of this guy, either was there or not there, that father figure, or the lack thereof. And it ends up being, this no good somebody. And I told a girl the other day, guys like that can sniff out the women who have low self-esteem, right? You saying here today you've had low self-esteem your whole life. You've always been called fat. You never were called beautiful. You never felt good about yourself as a young girl. Your parents always tore you down, and you end up with guys who abuse you physically, verbally, and you don't know why. Because you didn't know your value.
Right.
And they could spot that. So sometimes you attract that, but you don't even know it.
What makes the difference, Melvin, between a person who goes into prison and decides to utilize his or her time wisely, and get their education, or do something on a positive bit so that they can be ready for the outside, versus someone who's just doing their time? What's
Um,
the difference?
some people go in with a different agenda. They feel that when they come out, they're going to do whatever they had did. And let me speak more towards drugs, sold drugs. They say, well, I'm going to be better at it now because I know how I got caught last time. So I'm going to be a better drug dealer when I get out of
Oh
here.
my.
My thing was, I'm going to be a better person when I get out of here. This is beneath me. This is not what was intended by my
Say
parents
that.
for me, not intended for me to take this path by God, but I'm going to let God use this path. And also, what are you focused on? I don't ever want to be away from my children like that again. If I'm away from them now, it's because I'm traveling to bring money home or traveling to do something for the greater good for people.
Right.
So it's all about your focus when you go in. When I get out of here, I'm going to school and I'm not going to stop till somebody call me Dr. Cotton.
And that's what you did.
And that's what I did. So
As of
you
this
must
past
be
May.
focused.
That's
You got
fantastic.
it.
Congratulations on that. That is awesome. Can people's minds be changed while they're in?
Yes, they can be changed for the better or changed for the worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they can be.
Respond to that. Kim.
Absolutely. I believe that they have to be open to it. So there are some people who are incarcerated who just has an incarcerated mentality. They have incarcerated words. They're just jail, jail, jail. That's all they know. They feel more at home. And it was the scariest thing for me to hear that. A young girl felt more at home in that jail than she did going home. She felt more like she had a family in jail than she did in the streets. So her coming back multiple times was okay for her because this was more of a home and a family for her than anything she's ever had growing up.
Wow. So how do we, and maybe this is a part of, as you guys said, it's the norm.
Right.
How do people learn the system? In other words, like you were just describing a few minutes ago, if you don't have coins in a plastic bag, and if you this, that, and the other, I mean, how do you learn all of that stuff? Is it just because somebody goes in and they tell you?
Absolutely. You learn the hard way. You're going to learn one way or another, I say.
You can learn today.
You're going to learn today. I mean, it is. It's one of those things that while you're in there, you find out what you can't do. You literally have to walk this straight path or you'll be put in solitary. So you're going to figure it out or it's going to be trouble for you. And so they make it the best that they can while they're in there, and that's how they become institutionalized. And some of them will come home and eat fast, and still to this day they could be out for years and they still eating quick and over and over their stuff, and it's like, it's Thanksgiving, calm down. It's plenty in there for you. But because they've been in for 10 years or 40 something months, they haven't been around regular family, that won't take from you and don't want to trade with you to be nice to you. They get used to that lifestyle because they've been in there for so long.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about incarceration and its impact on the Black family with Quniana Futrell, CEO of Building Resilience in Communities and author of Our Moms, a book for kids of incarcerated parents. And we're going to talk about your book in just a moment. And Dr. Melvin Cotton, senior pastor of New Genesis Baptist Church, a youth mentor, and a former inmate who has turned his whole life around. And that is fantastic. I want to join us by phone now. Sade Speed. She's with the New Virginia Majority, and she's here to talk to us about a program that they have for inmates. And joining her is Jamal Rignall, the project manager of the Community Services. Is that correct?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about these fines and how you help the inmates to pay these fines? What are they about, first of all?
Well, actually, it's you pay your fines through community service. The law passed last July 1st that they can pay your fines through community work.
Okay, but explain, before we talk about how we pay them, what are people being fined for? In other words, what are these fines for?
It's for traffic, criminal, and restitution.
Okay, so this is based on whatever crime they did. They may have to pay restitution. They may have to pay people back for stealing or whatever. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It all depends on the courts. If they get granted, you got to go through the judge to get granted to
Okay.
even do that program now. So it depends on your charges on, and it depends on what the judge feels is necessary for it.
Gotcha. And how high can these fines run?
I actually paid myself. I paid $7,000, so it can run pretty high.
So once you get that fine, you can't get once they let you out, you have to pay off all of those fines before you can start to get things like your driver's license and things like that. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So what people need to do, especially when they first come home, they need to go down there to the courthouse, go to the court office and say, I just came home, instead of paying money that I don't have right now because I just came home from incarceration. I need to pay my fine for community service. And then each city creates their own little, wave to get granted, but some way, somehow you will get granted. And then what we do, we offer the hours for the community service.
Oh, I see. Okay. So if they can't pay the money directly, then they can do community service to work off the fine, basically.
Yes.
Correct? And
yes.
then you provide the community service for them. And what kinds of things would they be doing through what types of community service?
Well, prior we used to have them, actually, because we also do voter registration and restoration of rights.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have them help us, with either doing voter registration, restoration of rights, or doing, data entry duties or office duties. But we have come in contact with some cities who rather than not involve themselves with that type of work. So we also have other environmental issues that we fight here in the office as well, by another part of our organization. So basically it's another campaign so they can also do, flyer work or other office duties for the environmental campaign we have.
And so do they get paid a certain amount per hour? Is that how that works?
So, yeah, they work off their fines per hour.
Okay.
So they do the minimum wage. They don't do the way we get paid. They actually do it by the minimum wage, and that's court appointed.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. So and is this in every city in our area, in the Hampton Roads area? Or is this everywhere nationwide?
No, this is actually a state law. So, yes, it's throughout
the Commonwealth. Okay. Okay. And the way that they are able to find this, you said they need to go down to the courthouse, correct? And let people know that they
go to the
can.
Courthouse. Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to do a payment plan, say I can't afford a payment plan, especially when you just come home, you don't have any money, can't find a job right now. You say, I can't afford a payment plan right now. I'm trying to get my license and get my life right. I need a petition for community service to pay my fines off.
Okay. Got you. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that information. How do people reach you if they want to either offer opportunities for people to do community service or to find out more information?
Well, they can call us directly.
Okay. And that number?
My area code is 718.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 908.
Mm-hmm.
7313.
7313. Okay, and what's the area code one more time? It's 718, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, it's
718.
Okay. 718-908-7313.
Yes.
And that's the New Virginia majority.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate this information. Thanks for calling in.
No problem.
Thank you. Take care. So that's another whole area that people have to think about also in terms of being able to pay off fines, because if you don't, then what? You can't get housing. You can't
do anything without an ID or without a driver's license. Most places won't even hire you without a driver's license. So.
All right, so we're looking at the person who's inside. They decided they're going to turn their life around. Are there still educational opportunities internally?
No.
Why not?
There was something called the Zimmerman Bill, I believe, in 1994, that didn't allow certain colors to be worn, things of that nature, as well as stop education beyond a GED.
Yeah.
Yes. So there are some schools that offer some correspondence courses, but truth of the matter is they don't have proper accreditation. So it's certain, especially in my field, certain schools aren't they're not respected.
Well, and the other thing too is that there's no internet either, is there?
When I was there, no. But
Right.
for some reason, I said I have family that is incarcerated. They have Facebook accounts, and
Yeah.
I'm not
It
under.
So they're
depends on
able
where
to
they
get
are.
that.
They have internet. Some have TVs.
Yes.
I mean, it just depends on. They have. I've went to a correctional facility, Buckingham, and that's about a good 3 hours north. And those guys were in the class, and the guy was like, "Yeah, give me your information again. I'm gonna have my girl reach out to you on Facebook." And he pulled his cell phone out of his pocket. It was just texting her my info for her to reach out to me. So yeah.
Yeah, there are some cell phones in there that should not be. So I don't know if he had one or not.
Well,
Yeah, I know
I
some
plead
people
the fifth.
that have been transferred to a higher custody level because of that. But
Okay, so you can get your GED,
Yeah.
so that would at least keep you focused there,
and some trades.
and some trades.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can learn a trade while you're there. The day you get out,
Oof.
what was that day like for you, Melvin?
Wow. Well, who I ended up marrying, she picked me up.
wow.
A brown sheriff car had pulled up. I was in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, and I kept looking out the window. I saw her, then I saw a brown sheriff car. When a sheriff car comes, that means you have another charge.
Oh Lord.
So I'm sitting there. I couldn't tell, like a Portsmouth sheriff car, and I'm like, oh my goodness. But they were not there for me. So
I thought it was the plot twist of the story.
on the first day out she had brought me 2 outfits to let me choose which one I wanted to wear, and she had brought me a cell phone, and I noticed cell phone was different because I did work in the pager and cell phone industry once upon a time, and the ride home I just was looking around. It just felt so not real. Just didn't feel real at all. Even, you see that gas prices had gone up, milk has gone up. And I couldn't sleep. I didn't
Wow.
sleep well.
Really?
I didn't sleep well.
What do you think that was about?
For almost 4 years, I didn't sleep well.
PTSD.
Yeah, so that was definitely post-traumatic. I'm going to call it slave
Hello.
syndrome because I believe that's the new slavery.
Yeah.
And as she was sharing earlier, eating habits, and we were in a restaurant one time, and my food was kind of cold. She said, "No, send it back." And I said, "No, I do it." "No, you don't have to. We're paying for this." So you do have to get back acclimated beyond, IDs and stuff, but just being free. And they have this thing in the federal system, a 4 o'clock count. I think I'm finally getting over 4 o'clock now. I always felt like at 4 o'clock, that was the most important count. No matter where you were, you had to be standing.
You had to be standing at yourself.
And it's like 4 o'clock. I don't think I like to do anything at 4 o'clock now.
Wow.
Nothing's standing anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
So
absolutely.
it sticks with you, and just like she said, no skin. I felt like everyone was dressed, as far as women were dressed illegally or something. Like, okay, you're free. Because she brought up the visiting room, you could not, and rules are different with different federal versus state.
Right.
Versus city versus whatever COs may be working. They allow certain things. Some are just laid back, don't care. Then you have one that's just,
Cracking
man,
all over you.
do I owe you some money or something?
Right. Did I take from you?
I know, right?
So did you have to do parole?
Parole is, people get parole and probation a little mixed up. There's no such thing as parole in the federal system. Parole is when you say like you have 20 years and you don't have to do the 85%, but you are you're able to get parole in 10 years.
Okay. Probation though.
Yes, probation.
Right.
Yes,
When
I
you
did.
that's the did you have to do
Yes, I did.
probation?
5
Okay.
years,
5 years.
and it was.
So you had to check in every day, every week, every month?
No, I think they look at the nature of your crime and also your habit when you come home. The biggest thing is getting a job, and of course, they want to make sure you're not using drugs. That's never been my testimony. So they could come to your house at any given time, And everyone's probation is different. My probation officer, he really didn't come see me as much. The only hurtful thing is I had gotten engaged. And, of course, I wanted to get out of America. My indictment said United States of America versus Melvin Cotton Jr.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to get out of America and could not leave the country. But the day after I had gotten married, my my letter that I had would be off for probation had come early. So they let me off in almost 3 years. And he knew what I wanted to do, but it wasn't quick enough. So I had to settle for a trip to Miami.
That's okay. At least you got to make that
Poor
trip,
Miami.
right?
And but what's so funny though? Well, not funny, but ironic. I was teaching, and one of the students at the college I was teaching, that I want to keep that anonymous, she had gotten in some trouble, and she Googled me, and she came to the church. She needed some community hours, and I had to go turn in a form at the very probation office building, the federal building, for her, as a recommendation for myself. And I asked for my probation officer. He said, "Man, I'm proud of you." Wow. I've been out in dinner and seen the prosecutor for my case. I won't mention his name. Great guy, and it's just,
Wow.
you see these
We
people
don't
in
even
different
think
circles.
about that whole, I was going to say, the whole idea of all of these folks who impact your life
Yeah.
and sent, in terms of sending you away and having you come back
Yeah.
and so forth, are part of the community.
Yes.
And so you are going to run into them, and you are
Wow.
going to.
Well, some you
see
don't.
them
They don't expect to
sometimes.
see you in certain places.
Yeah.
but the friends and support system, pastor and friends that I've met, they allowed me in certain areas that are now my norm. So it's nothing for me to see these other people. And one more thing though, even people that I've grown up with, I have some that come visit the church in which I pastor. When you come into Portsmouth, and it's like it's a generation of men and women that grew up with me that are actually happy about your success story. And your story or your life gives them hope.
Yeah, it does.
He or she's one of us. So now it's not just about the prestigious people. I'm not moved by any of that. I'm still regular old Melvin. Oh, you doctor now. I'm still Melvin to my nicknames that I went by. So
Gotcha.
I can't allow success to make me any different as far as who I come in contact with.
Do your children ask you about your prison experience?
I would
talk to
have
you
to
about
say no. My baby boy, he doesn't know. Will he know one day? Yes, but that'll be later.
Yeah.
But they've never asked. They are so. I'm very hard on them when it comes to something that I may see could land them in trouble. I'm more hands-on than my parents were. And that's not to down them. It's just that I was able to do things that I shouldn't have been able to do because they didn't have such a
didn't have
hold
to
on
hold-
me.
Gotcha.
Well, after 14 kids, I guess they were tired.
Well, there's a couple different moms involved. His dad is gone on the glory, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, he loved us, and we kind of blended as well too. So,
Papa
but
was a
yeah.
Rolling
That's
Stone.
great. So Q, when the person comes home, what is the adjustment for the family? What do they have? What does the family have to get used to? again?
Truthfully, whether or not the person's going to do it this time, that's always there. Are they going to be home this time? Are they going to not do it this time? Or are they going to go every time they leave? Are they really going to where they say they're going? Or is it just like the last time where they're going to really go somewhere they shouldn't?
So it's that trust factor.
Absolutely. And you have to earn your right to be heard again. And for some reason, for some people, let me say that, not everybody, but for some people when they come home, it's, I'm home now, let's get back in. That's like if you've been in a relationship and somebody's broken that trust. They ready to, now you forgave them. Now they're ready to go back to normal. And it's like, whoa, let's date again. Let's be friends again. Let's get to know each other again first. And so when somebody comes home, they're just so ready to, I've done this time. I moved on. I done read books. I done got a degree. I've arrived. What you mean? You want to take it slow. I'm here now. And it's like, no, I understand that. But nope, we're going to go together to get the kids. Nope, you can't go just yet by yourself. Nope, we're going to do, and some people don't understand that. And some will get offended. and some will get upset. And I've even had some, when I had the privilege of going to Uganda, where some of the fathers, when they would go home from prison, as much as they would write their children and talk to them while they were there, when they went home, because they couldn't work yet, they were so ashamed that they wouldn't even be around their children. They would just, like they said, literally, they would just vanish and just go off and not even communicate with them anymore because they felt so ashamed that they couldn't provide for their family.
What is that? That's probably, I think that must be the worst part of this, or one of the worst parts of this whole experience, is when you've done your time and you want to come out and you want to get started fresh. You got to have a job and you can't get a job.
Right.
I mean, Melvin, I see you laughing.
I mean, sitting here listening to Q, it makes me think about my two daughters. You know, not to say my sons, I'm not thinking about them, but I know that sometimes women are more expressive of their emotions. And the first thing I did with my three children I had is I told them I would never leave you like that again. So it was the first time, it was the last time.
Yeah.
Unless I have to protect them.
Yeah.
Or myself.
Yeah. You got to understand.
And they were old enough to understand.
Yeah.
But the last part you were saying about the employment, it was hard. Yeah, it was hard.
Right.
That box they call it. I
Yeah.
thank God for such a wonderful mentor, now a father to me, as well as a pastor that had given me a job. You know, spoke up for you. And in my dissertation, that will be a book, in that sermon series I was telling you about, it's dealing with the book of Philemon. And it talks about, I'm not going to give you a Bible study, but it talks about someone that spoke up for someone that had did wrong.
Wow.
And I see my pastor, who's Dr. Melvin Mariner, I see him as that person that spoke up for me. So it's always good to have someone that's really vouch for you.
Yeah.
My high school guidance counselor, Miss Gail Porter, people that will vouch for you. Look, he made a mistake. So and they'll tell you, don't let me down there. but you need some type of support system.
Absolutely.
And it's great to have a trade. I own my own company at Shelby Dunn Communications LLC. So by the past cable company or communications company I used to work for, I had a trade, so I could hustle till I started my business.
So you got your business.
But it's hard to, and especially when you're used to money, used to doing what you have to do. It's hard sitting across the table from a lady that you're interested in and she has to pay for the meal. You know, now I won't mind, but and there was a time that they did not, you know, as far as, you know, one of my sisters or something like that, and then who I'm married to now, that, you know, she would just, her card, but now they'll sit there and look at the bill, you know.
Sure enough.
Let's talk about your book. Our Moms. What is this about, Q?
So Our Moms deals with the 4 children on the front cover who all look different races, different cultures. They're interested in different things, but the one common ground factor that they share is their mother's in prison. And so I was intentional with making sure I had children who all look different, because it's a topic that really impacts everybody. And I didn't want any child to feel left behind. And so the book is really that conversation starter, so that they don't have to stay there in college or in the hospital, so that when the arrest happens and you don't know what to say, so when that kid in your class raises their hand and say, hey, guess what I did last night? I went to see my mama in jail. And the teacher now is like, oh, okay, you saw it. All right, sweetie. Nice. Thank you for telling me that. Where it's like, no, you can say a little more. And here's a resource for you. So I like to say it's more than a book. It's a resource for those who live or work with children that have to face this particular issue, because nobody ever knows the right words to say. It's never going to be the perfect time to bring it up, but it is a conversation that needs to be had.
So what does a teacher do, or another adult do in that situation?
So when the child says, hey, last night I saw my mommy in jail, or you even had a teacher in Dallas tell me she had a child who said, last night I went to see my mommy in college and everybody had on orange jumpsuits. And she said, Q, I don't know what to say to that. I didn't know what to say. And so when that happens, you just really, well, how was the drive? Did you see any trees? How were the flowers? So you ask them about the experience of it. If it is something that's a lie and you know it's one, you don't break the family's lie, but you do talk to the family and say, hey, this is what the child said. If you need me, I am a resource, and I do have some things I have a book, I have some articles for you. I can help if you need me. if this is something you're facing, because I know children can talk sometimes, so that you're not totally throwing the child under the bus. And then in that case where the child flat out says, last night I saw my mommy go to jail, or I visited my mom in jail, then they say, wow, how was the visit? How was mom doing? I know she still has that beautiful smile, something like that. And then ask the child, do they want to write about it? Would you like to draw a picture that we can maybe mail mommy? And then talk to the family afterwards, the aunt or the uncle, whomever's the guardian now, and say, hey, this is what was said in class. If there's anything I can do to be a resource. Because one of the things that teachers don't like to do is to talk about this topic. We'll talk about divorce and we'll say, hey, family, I'm here for you. I know dad's coming his 2 days, you're coming your 3 days. I got it. I'm working it out and I'm here for you guys. I know if death comes up, we'll talk about it. But this topic is one that we stray away from because it's so sensitive. But this is the one that causes the most impact to their health and their behavior when it's left unspoken of.
You know, there was an article in the New York, at MSNBC actually did an article called "The City Paper: The City Prison's Grip on the Black Family" by MSNBC, and there was a quote from a woman that just caught me. And I want the two of you to react to this. And she said, "There is no name for a parent that's lost a child. If you lose a spouse, you're a widow. If a child loses their parent, they're an orphan. But if you lose a child, there's no name. So I call it pain with no name."
I had the horrific experience of eulogizing a 10-year-old, very bright-eyed young lady 2 months ago. Parents just getting back on their feet by way of their faith. And I have to agree with her there. All you can say is a mother that lost a child. And I say that because I don't believe that was God's intended, and I'm not getting churchy, intended order. We should bury our parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that there is, and some mothers feel that they lose their child because regardless of how old you are, you have a birthday coming up soon. And, I don't know if mom is still around, but even if she's not or she is, you're still her child.
I am still her child, yes.
So
and my birthday's today.
Okay, happy birthday.
Yes,
that's right, happy birthday.
Thank you.
So my thing is, even when they lose them to the system, that's no comparison to death.
Yeah.
Because my mom's her piece was, I know where you are.
Yeah.
And I know you all right.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
This whole conversation, I could just go on and on. And I'm But I guess, in the minute or so that we have left, if you could say one thing, and I'll let both of you do this, to a parent or to a family about their incarcerated one or to the incarcerated person, what would you say that to keep the family intact?
Well,
Go
for
ahead,
me,
Q first.
I would say I would give them my motto that I use in my life and my businesses, which is change the family, change the world. Change the family, change the world. People can protest, people can go on social media and be advocates online, but if you don't actually impact the change right there in your family and help that family member by any means with that unconditional love, you are really setting yourself up for them to really do the same thing again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And go ahead,
I go back to
real
that,
quick.
what I said earlier. I would say give but never give up. And I'm speaking never give up on people because you never know what can come out of someone's life.
Thank you
Absolutely.
both so very, very much. And thank you for listening to Another View today. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer, and Victor Bowen is our audio engineer. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Have a wonderful 4th of July holiday celebration, and thank you so very much for listening to Another View.